Welcome back to the channel, guys. It's your boy SC1, and we got Derek, CEO of Dci Grading, on the channel today. How you doing today, Derek?
I'm doing awesome, man. It's great. It's been a great week and leading up to a couple big shows this weekend, so we can't be more excited.
Ooh, how many? You were telling me that you guys got a lot of shows lined up this year. How many shows do you think you're gonna attend?
We'll probably hit 30 shows before the national. So yeah, I think we've hit 17 so far. So, and we've got a huge whiteboard full of shows coming up. So we have 2 this weekend, 2 next weekend. So a lot of weekends we're hitting 2 shows.
Nice. So
yep.
You're gonna be out in Del Mar, out in my neck of the woods. So I'll see you next week.
Yep.
But
wait.
Yeah, so for you guys that don't know who Dci Grading, this is the whole purpose of this video. We love to share different aspects of the hobby, meet different people in the hobby. So first, tell me a little bit about Dci Grading, Derek. What exactly are you guys doing right now?
Yeah. So everything for DCI really started as, like, if we do our origin story right now. So we were a submission group for PSA and Beckett, and we started reviewing people's cards for them before they would go ahead and send them off with us. So we would help to go through and help them just to essentially like weed out bad cards that just had flaws and defects and stuff like that. So we did that in the beginning, and we got really, really good results for our customers, which is obviously the whole point of doing it. And then we eventually just started to do those reviews for people and allow them to take them to whatever company they wished. A lot of people sell them online in like a raw review form or any other number of things. So that was where we went to as business continued to progress. And we've done this for just a little bit over 2 years now. So it's not like we just jumped into it. I know that 2 years might be short in a total business time, but 2 years of doing nothing but raw review on customer cards has allowed us to do A, quite a few cards, and then B, just be able to, you know, get a really nice reputation inside the hobby versus just jumping into, you know, card grading and slabs and stuff like that, which is where we've been going as the continual progression of our business. And I'm sure that we'll talk about that later in the interview here, but that's kind of where our business has been trekking along as we lead into the summer here of 2022.
Oh, nice. So you guys not necessarily a group submission grader to the companies, but you guys take the cards, you make sure the cards look all good too. I mean, and that's actually a really, really great service for people to know, because a lot of people don't even know that was even available to them, because everyone hates sending the cards to PSA. You think you have the best card in the world, you do the overnight shipping or the, you know, the immediate grade, spend $600 and you get your card back and your card's an 8, card's a 7, you know. So you're kind of streamlining that process in a sense. Also helps PSA, all the bigger companies, CSG, you know, BGS, you know, SEC, to weed out cards that really shouldn't be graded, right?
Correct. Yeah, we never want to say what someone should or shouldn't grade just based on, you know, I could tell you that the card's a 6, but it happens to be a PC card for you and it's your favorite player from when you're a child, right? So I'm not going to tell you not to grade it, but our goal is to at least help you to know what it should grade based on the condition of the card. So a lot of people used our services originally as like a pre-grading service before, because like you said, the fees got really high. You know, the backlogs got really long, and that's okay. There was nothing wrong with that, but you want to make sure that you're going to get the grade that you're looking for. If you were going to go spend $100, $150, $600, as used an example of, you know, you want to make sure you're going to get the return on your investment.
Nice. So in your experience, so let me ask you this, let me backtrack a little bit. So what landed you into this space? Are you a collector yourself? Did you kind of just land on this and then you got into collecting? What's your background?
Yeah, great question. So I was a collector myself back when I was a kid. So I was born in '82. So I got to enjoy the early and late years of the junk wax era. You know, for me, Bo Jackson was a superhero when I was 5 years old, and some stuff like that. I still have a deep affinity for the '87 Topps wood border. But so that was me as a kid growing up, was into cards for a long time. And like so many people, obviously, you know, got out of cards for a while. I've continued to pay attention to sports over the years, so like I was involved with that. I kicked myself for not buying LeBron when I could have back in the day, even though, you know, you knew he was going to be good, but I just wasn't into cards at the time. So anyway, so Eventually got back in like so many people did. And actually, when I linked up with DCI, we had our owner, and his name is Brad. So, and if you watch like our podcast, you'll see Brad on and stuff like that. But our owner for our company was actually used to own a shop back in 0304 and had done the same thing as me. So he got out of it for a while. He had sold his hobby shop and then started to get back into it, of course, as we all got, locked up with COVID and stuff like that. So it's the typical story that you hear of how, business has gone, grading companies coming into the space. Obviously the market blew up, and we just decided we were going to approach it from a very different perspective, that we didn't want to create a grading company that had no reputation to start to fight against the big companies. We wanted to create something a little bit different. And so we all got involved and we started to build things from there. So that's how it was. And then as we talked about the show thing, that's where a lot of people have gotten to know us. So, I mean, we go to shows consistently because we want to be out with the people, right? We want to have those connections with people and show them why and what, because education has been one of the most important things for us as a company.
No, and that's awesome, and that's what is awesome about your service. And I personally met you at the Mint Collective. They had this giant booth in the center of the floor, and what was really really cool about it is I didn't even know this service. Me personally, I didn't even know this service was available to me. So
Sure.
I have, just as an example, I have this DCI raw review grade. I won a blaster out of the Whatnot crane. I
Okay.
pulled this John Morant. As I
Yep.
met Dominic, I was talking to Dominic. He goes, "Hey, just check out. You have any raw cards?" I'm like, I just won a blaster, so let me give you this card. So, $10 for those other people, it gives you an idea of the accuracy of what the grade is if you were to go in to submit it to anybody else. Now, I'm a John Morant fan, but I don't PC the guy like that. So if I were to sell this card, I would get it graded, and if it come back great, I would probably go ahead and try to sell the card. But now knowing what it came back at, it kind of saved me that time, that stress, the time, the stress, the anxiety of what it's going to come back as, and you kind of just know, is this worth it or not? So now this is probably just going to be a PC card.
Sure. Yeah, 100%. And I would tell you too that even people taking cards the way that you have them right now are seeing really nice returns, even on lower end stuff. So I always try to think about this as something important, right? If you're going to give a $5 card to DCI and have us do a $10 review, that's a lot of money on the review comparative to the value of the card. And so most of the times, we wouldn't recommend that, but again, not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but you're probably not going to get the value out of that. Just like sending a $5 card for a $50 PSA submission, it just doesn't make sense right now, right? I get that. But it doesn't mean that we don't track some of those things too. So, one of the examples that we had that was a fairly recent example, and you can still find, it should still be up on eBay right now, is a LaMelo Ball base optic card. It's like a $10 or $12 card. Came back as a DCI 10 and sold for $51 in an auction. I don't know who the customer was. We graded it at some random show that we were at. But the point is that was still almost a 5x return over raw for someone like a LaMelo Ball optic. So that person had $10 for the card, $10 for the grading, and saw a $30 return with an instantaneous grade on that card. Yes, in a PSA 10, it's $200. So clearly you're not talking about the same thing as an encapsulated card, but that's still a nice return on a fairly low dollar card in that case. So there can still be value in some of the lower end stuff.
Oh, no, and it's great that you point that out, because I think the mindset of the newer card collectors, or should I say, I want to say even newer, the current status of card collecting is that you need a gem in 10. You need to get that 10, and you need to flip it, and you make the most, maximize your dollar. But what a lot of newer people that I've seen, they get heartbroken when they don't get the 10, but there's still a space for the lower graded cards. There's still a space for the lower, dollar value cards, such as this John Morant. This is probably what, a $10-15 card raw. And no, if it came back as a 10, that $10-15 card could potentially be worth, $60, $50, knowing that it's a 10 and someone could take the risk of getting it setted. But the fact that you guys raw reviewed it, and you have a history of doing nothing but raw reviews, gives it a little bit more value, which is really,
Sure.
really cool.
For sure.
So on that note, you guys are kind of evolving DCI, you know, growing the company. You guys are now, you know, DCI Grading, and you guys released a slab that's coming out. So let me switch the scene really fast. Let's get into the background of the, you know, minute-long video, and we'll get into some examples of your raw review. So this is the slab that's coming out, you know, sometime in July. I love the gold on it. I will tell you that. It's very, very flashy.
Thank you.
What was the idea behind the slab? Did you guys want to go with a design that was similar to something that's out there, or you wanted to take something better and make it different? Like, if I just, as an outsider looking in, it looks very similar to a PSA/CSG if they had a baby.
Yep.
That's what it looks like to me. From a video, of course, but I think that's the biggest part that jumped out to me, is that it's UV protected.
Correct. Yeah. So that was one of the things, right? So we wanted to be able to design something from scratch. So this slab was completely designed from scratch. We did not take an off-the-shelf product, which I think was an important thing. We built it all from scratch. We did polycarbonate, so that would be similar to, I believe that CSG is using polycarbonate. So it's a more clear material. It's actually a little bit stronger material as well for a few different things. It will scratch and stuff like that, so it's not going to be stronger in that case, but drops and chips and those types of things. So it's still really good for that, and it has that ultra clarity to it. It is about the size of a PSA slab, but it's thicker than PSA is. So PSA is a pretty thin slab, especially when you compare it to a Beckett slab. So ours kind of sits right in the middle from a thickness perspective. Obviously they stack well and all that stuff's kind of planned out there. The UV protection was something that we hadn't seen done in anyone's slabs, but I know that I've read about people in the hobby. It's definitely a concern for a lot of people, especially if you get to the point of displaying your cards. You know, whether they're on a shelf or a mantle or whatever it might be. So that was one of the things that we thought was important. And then the other piece that I personally think was the most important, as we talked about education and then transparency being like our really key things we're trying to hit. When you flip that slab over, you'll notice that there were 2 QR codes on the back. One goes to your pop report, so that's pretty normal from everybody. But the other one goes to a video review of the actual card. So one will take you to a general pop report where you can find out all about that set and every card that's been graded, et cetera, et cetera. But the one that's going to take you to the video review is going to be a page designed just for your card. And it's going to have obviously all the appropriate information. And then it's going to have a video review, which is about a 10 to 15-second review of your card based on the grader's notes of what they noted as flaws for your card. So it may be you're going to kind of see a top-down view of a pair of hands with some gloves on it holding your card, and it's going to say that, you know, the grader has noted that the upper right corner has a little bit of issue. There's 2 little spots of surface here, and then it's a 60-40 centering. This card has an overall grade of 8. That might be what the review sounds like, all the while that those little flaws are being pointed out. Because that's the most frustrating part, is getting your cards back and not knowing why you got the grade that they got.
Yeah, and
so
you call them and be like, "Oh, there's no notes," or you get the frustration reaching out to them, no one responds to you. You know, it's and
even to that point, why we didn't do subgrades, because we have a lot of people that are like, "We'll just do subgrades. It's easy enough, right? It just everyone gets it." But I don't think they do, and so here's the reason why. I tell you that you have a 9 edges, but that doesn't tell you where the actual flaw is. And when those cards are encapsulated at that point and they're inside that shell, it's really tough to see something, to understand the difference between 9, 9, 5, and 10 edges may be a challenge to see depending on how it's set up. So we want to make sure that we're noting out the specific flaw and what it is and exactly where it is. So that's why we did it that way. Oh. And then the other thing that we noticed with subgrades is it's tough to comp them at times, right? You and I both have a 9.5, but your 9.5 has a 10 and I have a true gem. So like you get more, but how much more? That can just be a little bit confusing. So that's why we have whole grades only. There's no half point grades with DCI. And then obviously you have the video review itself, but the whole grade will stand.
Nice. So the video review comes with every grade? Um,
Every single grade.
or is it okay? So that's awesome to
It doesn't
hear.
come with the raw review cards, not the raw review cards,
Yeah, yeah.
but it will come with every slab.
Oh, that's cool. So, and I think that's the biggest thing with that's missing in terms of grading and everything. I don't shy away from grading. I'm an older collector, like yourself. You know, I started collecting cards in the late '80s, and
Yep.
just like everyone got away, got back, and you know, I had a little bit of a Pokemon collection come '99, and I was one of those guys that never sent cards in to be graded. I was one of those guys that just always kept it in a safe place, top loaded, kept it in a safe place in a safe box. And now that I've gotten back into the hobby, it just seems like everything needs to be in a slab.
Sure.
You know, and everyone's interpretation of a slab is different. And the biggest flaw, just like what you're talking about, is that if I were to send a card to PSA and it comes back a 8, it comes back a 7, I want to know why. You know, if I'm spending that kind of money, I want to know why. And I think that's the biggest downfall in the grading system right now is, you know, yeah, the subgrades are great, you know, but again, it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? It's all on how comfortable the person, the collector is. There's no right and wrong way. It's just what you're comfortable with as a collector. And I personally like seeing the standard numbers. I think the corners, the edges, the surface, like it's all great. But you know, I've seen cards where they have like an 8.5 corner, but they're like 10 everywhere else, and it comes like a 9.5, and I'm like, wait, if it's like 8.5, how does that, you know, how does that still
Right.
equal the 10 to everywhere else? So that kind of stuff doesn't make any sense to me because, you know, they go out like HGA is one that comes off the top of my head, where I personally have a card that's 8.5 and then it's 9.5 everywhere else, and I get a 9.5, and I'm like, I think in any other grading system, I think the 8.5 kind of stops it away from getting a 9.5.
Right.
But I could be wrong. Again,
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy because
Yeah,
it's my
no,
card.
exactly. Yep, I'm with you on that. Yeah, and that's why, like I said, we just did whole grades only. You know, we're still evaluating those same 4 main traits for a card. It's the same way that we evaluate. We just don't put it on there, and instead we just note out the individual flaws and give you the final grade. So
Awesome. So, with your grading service that's coming in, your raw reviews, are you doing all types of cards, or is it just your standard cards? Like, I know some companies their slabs don't fit memos, especially like the jerseys.
Yep.
They don't fit those. Are you guys taking on all those cards?
Not from day one. So great question. Yeah, not from day one. So day one will just be all of your standard paper, optic, prism, you know, your standard cards. Everything post, I guess, would be 1957 when we talk about that too, because the 52 to 56 were a little bit different size as well. And obviously we can't do tobacco cards and Almaginter and some of those types of things just yet. So we're going to get started with all of our base stuff and then be able to move from there. And we'll move into some of the bigger thicknesses for being able to do the National Treasures and, you know, the patches and all that kind of stuff. We'll move into that, and those will come really quickly afterwards. So we'll definitely have those by the end of the year. But we'll start with all your standard stuff to begin with. Got you.
So, as you were on the panel, hosting the panel, one of the questions I was throwing out is, you know, not population control. What's the word I'm trying to go? Volume. How you guys are going to be able to handle the volume? So once the slabs come in and they're fully released, you guys are going to be able to offer full grading services now. How are you guys going to combat the influx of submissions over to you?
Yeah, you know, that's one thing that that we think about from the beginning, which was, hey, what type of volume can we do from day one? And based on the turnaround speeds and stuff like that we have. So we know what we have from how many graders we have that are already trained, and we know the amount of staff that we're going to be hiring leading into it. We're overstaffing from the beginning, off the expectation that the hobby is going to enjoy what we do, just based on what we see from shows as well. And we'll get into how you can get your raw reviews over to slabs and stuff like that at some point, but we know kind of the volume of what we see there. So we were able to start to extrapolate out and make sure that we have an extra percentage above that to be good. We're going to have multiple different service levels, and so if we need to, we'll be able to combat those, potential issues of timing really is kind of the big thing, right? Like, hey, if you get a big influx in, can you hit the timing that you have? And then if we need to, we can bring in more people as well. So I'm not worried about that one until we get over the point of around 5,000 to 7,000 cards a week with what our initial staff will be. As we start to approach, so as we probably get to 2,500 to 3,000 cards a week when we talk about slabs, is when we'll start to, because we're kind of at a 50% capacity point, and we'll start to ramp up the rest of the team even bigger to be able to get us out to that next point. So I always want to have some buffer in there to make sure that we don't have any issue.
No, that's actually super smart. Again, I'm not the one to throw shade at different people, but I mean, everyone saw it. Like last year, everybody they couldn't handle the volume, but it seemed like they kept taking it. And sometimes the smartest business move is to be transparent and just let them know, like, hey, I bid up more than I could chew. I think Beckett was the first one to be like, hey, I can't take anything right now. Let's halt it. Or some of the other companies just created the backlog upon backlog upon backlog. I mean, I think HGA, I did one and it took me, almost 4.5 months to get my slab back. I had a PSA card sit there for almost 5.5 months. And it happens. I get it. I understand it. So it's good to know that you're kind of being proactive and kind of seeing and correcting the mistakes previous to you. That speaks volumes. So on that note, we're going to start looking at some pictures here and kind of go over and show everybody what the raw reviews kind of look like. So right now we're looking at a raw review. This looks like a Luka Prism rookie card.
Yep.
So you take the card, you kind of do all the measurements, you kind of you clean it up, and then after it's done, you put it into a protective sleeve, and then I'm assuming you mail it off to the customer, right?
Yeah, exactly. So either mailed or that could be done at a show. So in this card specifically, obviously we're checking, centering corners, edges, surface, all that kind of stuff, just like normal. All those cards get wiped and prepped as well. So we get this question a lot when people meet us at a show because they're like, oh man, I didn't even prep my cards to give them to you. It's like, well, no, that's part of what we do. We don't knock you down for that. So we prep every card before we do a final grading on it. So all the cards are wiped and prepped. And then in here, all cards get brand new material. So brand new penny sleeve, brand new card saver, that label that's on there. So this isn't a card saver, just so you guys know. The label that's on there is a voidable label. So if you go to try to pull that label off, it trashes the label out. It's very obvious that the card's been tampered with. And then it gets put into a bag after that. So that way it's obviously a good, clean presentation piece afterward. No, it's not as strong as putting in a slab. We get that. But it's clearly the good first step from there. And what's really important with a lot of these is not only do we get these shipped into our office and you can go to our website and be able to create a submission, but this is what we do at shows every weekend and sometimes multiple shows per weekend is we go and do this at the show on site. Typically you get your cards back in an hour to an hour and a half and be able to get them done right at the show for the same price, for $10 a card.
Wow, okay. So on that note, everyone's probably like, I've never done raw reviews and had someone clean my cards and all that stuff. Is there, I saw this in your video, but can you explain your current accuracy into what the raw review is and then when they actually submit it to get graded? I saw one of your videos and you guys have talked about that.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So when we've tracked this over time, we had a 96% accuracy rate, and that was mostly with PSA, but we have an extremely high accuracy rate with Beckett as well, that it would get the grade given or higher. So I want to keep that, as the example there, because I've actually had people that are like, well, you gave me 9s and it got 10, so you weren't very accurate. I'm like, are you upset? Like, that should be a good thing, right? Like, but when we do it, it's not that we want to be strict in our grading, it's that we want it to be true. So when the card has a 9, it means that our grader has found a flaw in it. And if that card was going into a slab, we would have done a video review and we would have shown you exactly where that flaw was. We just don't have time to do it when we're doing the reviews at shows. We can go to a 3-day show and do 1,500 to 2,000 reviews over the course of 3 days for customers. I just don't have the time to be able to pull my graders off of what they do to point out every flaw. But that is why I think this is such an important service for us to be able to get done for people.
Yeah, and like you said, everyone has a fear of submitting a card and getting a bad grade. That's everyone's
Yep.
fear. But if you're only into it for a little bit of money, you know,
Yep.
that fear kind of gets taken away, and you know, you find out if it's still something you want to be graded, or if it's something you just want, you know. There's also services out there where you just put your cards in slabs, like no grade, it's just bits in the slab. So
Correct.
you know, you can think about those kind of things. But knowing what you have in front of you is always key. So I'm just curious. I'm looking at Tom Brady. What's the biggest card you guys have ever raw reviewed?
The biggest card that we've raw reviewed, we had a customer who's brought us multiple of the select Patrick Mahomes 2017 autos.
Oh,
So all of the one of ones. So that was an interesting set to be able to look at because there's 4 one of one select autos, and one customer owns all 4 of them. So that
oh
was
my
a
gosh.
one. We had a LeBron James black refractor. I know you had the 2003 Topps Chrome up there earlier. So we've had the black refractor, which we actually have on, I think it's on our TikTok if you look it up. So we cracked that out of a PSA slab, and then re-review that for our customers. So that was a pretty big card to pull. Obviously, we've had something like the Jordan 9, which, you know, obviously that's a pretty decent card. And then there was something, a unique one that we had recently. Didn't get the highest of grades because they don't typically. But we had the Dwayne Wade 2003 Topps Chrome printing plate, one of his printing plates, come through with an on-card auto as well. So that was a pretty cool piece. So
Oh, that's nice. So, are you guys reviewing all kinds of cards right now, or are you also doing cards
yeah,
like Pokemon, Marvel? You know, there's pop culture
we
cards.
do everything. Yeah, we do everything. Obviously, like I said, we can't do memorabilia cards and stuff like that in our slabs, but we can definitely do them in our raw review. That's pretty typical for us. So yeah.
Got you, got you. So I'm assuming you guys are authenticating the autos and all that stuff as well.
We do not. So great question.
Okay.
So we do not do the auto. So if someone comes to us with an auto, obviously if it's a factory auto, you know, something that's on there from Panini or Topps, it's the Topps issued stuff, that's no problem at all. We'll go ahead and seal that card. If someone brings us an on-card auto, we do recommend that that person goes ahead and has it sent over to JSA or Beckett or one of the other companies that can authenticate the auto before we seal it in there. So, because at that point, the authentication company isn't going to authenticate it through, you know, not being able to see the card or actually like physically hold the card in hand. So we do recommend that people do that before. But yeah, we do not authenticate autos, and we will not be doing it in the early days for our slabs either. There will be no autograph grades or autograph authentication.
Got you. And I mean, the auto stuff is that's a completely different beast.
That's a different world. Yeah, it would be easy for us, and we can recommend people if we know that it's a factory auto. You know, you've got a Topps Chrome, you know, rookie refractor, and it's got an autograph on it. Okay, that's pretty easy, and we'll tell people, hey, do grade the auto because it's a 10, or don't grade the auto because it'll get an 8 or a 10 or whatever. But we are not in the authentication business when it comes to the autographs right now.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go back to the opening scene again to get
Sure.
back on camera. So
Yeah.
I mean, if as long as you guys been, I just have to ask, like, is there a particular sport that you guys just love seeing these cards? Like, do you see these one cards you just like? For instance, behind you is Tiger Woods. One
Yep.
of my, in my opinion, in my generation, I'm from Chicago, so I got the Cubs jersey on, and Michael Jordan is, you know, our holy grail. But I
Sure.
still think Tiger Woods is my favorite athlete of all time.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I'll say it a million times over. I don't think what he's gone through publicly, been humiliated, thrown down the mountain, and the way he climbs right back up every single time, I don't think we've ever seen that in sports. So on that note, is there cards that you guys just love seeing, and you guys, after you see this card, like, oh my god, look at this card? You know, do you guys have that in the office?
Yeah, we don't really have something directly like that, but we use Slack for running part of our business, and so we actually have a Slack channel just called Badass Cards. And so anytime that we're grading something, we throw it in there, and it's our salespeople, it's our graders, all that kind of stuff. When we put it in there, just to be able to kind of keep track of the cool stuff, and it's really cool when you go back months and months and months to look at all of the really like wild and incredible cards that we've had the chance to see. And even when we brought on our sales staff, our grading staff had been with us for a while, customer service, all that kind of stuff had been with us, but our sales staff has only been around for about 6 months, as we knew that we were ramping up to our slabs, and so we needed to get a lot more focus out there. And so we started this channel, and we started throwing our salespeople in there and posting these cards up. And because they haven't been to a lot of shows with us yet, they're like, wait, you guys get this stuff? And we're like, yeah, like we get it all the time, right? Like it had become normal to us to get, Mickey Mantle, or like early, 53, 54, or, 51, 52 Bowmans, and to get all this stuff. And because they hadn't been around us long enough, they're like, is this normal? I'm like, yeah, like it's every weekend, we probably get 5 to 7 Jordans that come in every single weekend, varying grades between 3 to 7 typically, but every weekend we're looking at them. So
on that note, we'll talk about Jordan. Jordan, in the last couple of years, or should I say, I think really in the last year and a half, the last couple of years, there's been an influx of reprinted Jordan cards. Really, I think that's probably the most reprinted card that people have been coming across. And there's instances of people, putting them in PSA slabs, stealing the serial numbers and putting these cards in and selling them at shows. What do you guys, when you see something like that in a raw review and you're just looking at the card, do you guys actually authenticate the card itself? Like, does your reviewer be like, hey, this doesn't feel right?
Yeah, we rule out cards all the time for that. So we have some templates that were made more specifically for sizing and trimming. That's one of kind of the big things that we try to keep track of. So we have some templates made that every card can go onto. So if we have any sort of question about that and we're looking for trimming and stuff like that, so we can put it on there. Obviously, we're using magnification. We do have our head grader as well as some additional graders for our grading team. And so what we do, so obviously our head grader is our most experienced person. And so what we do with him is any card that's usually about $500 or more raw price, we always get a second opinion, even in a raw review. We just want to make sure. So using Jordan as an example, that situation happened at the Dallas show. That's one of our home shows that we're, around here. Our office is in Dallas. So that situation you're talking about with the Jordans actually did kind of happen here. And I believe it happened at a couple other shows, but that's where those two people had gotten in trouble and the police were involved and stuff. So,
oh man, and you got to figure too, those, no matter what the number of grade is on that Jordan, that's a 5-digit card easy, right? So
yeah, there was some stuff around that, and I don't remember exactly how the story went, so I'm gonna get this probably somewhat close. Is there were some fake PSA slabs, and I don't remember if they were Jordans in the slabs or something else, but then there were also some Mike Baker authenticated Jordans, which were real. So that's not a knock on Mike Baker. Those were real as well. And I think the thought process that they had was somehow these people were getting real authentic Jordans, and then they were putting them into somehow a slab that was redone. So like, for instance, if like Mike Baker had graded it a 3, they had a slab that was for like a 5, right? So that way it didn't look too far off. So there was something going on there that was a little bit different. And I know the story blew up that it was all these fake Jordans, but I believe some of the cards were actually real. They just were not at the value or at the grade that they, were perceived to be.
Interesting.
We have to dig into that more, but there was something weird that I read afterward, that certain stuff was real and certain stuff was not. So
yeah, and it's like in the breaking world. Unfortunately, these are the kind of things that just happen in any space. Correct. In any space of business, there's always going to be that little bit of a shade. And kind of throws a black eye at everybody. In the breaking world, what's the card that happened? Is it the Robert Woods to 99? I think it's the name of the card.
Okay.
Yeah, or not Robert Woods. I don't know. can't think of the name. Something to 99 where the breaker, you know, did a little bait and switch. That invented everyone to get more top-down cameras to avoid any bait and switches. You know what I mean? So that's unfortunate it happened. So on that note of like other people's slabs and fake slabs, when you guys go full grading, are you guys gonna do a lot of cross grading? Are you guys gonna take on any cross grades? Like if I were to send you a slab from somebody else, that you crack it and grade it yourselves?
We will do that, but we will not do a minimum grade. So it won't be a situation of like, oh, you know, I'm going to send you this PSA 9, but min grade only of a DCI 10. We won't do that. We will crack the 9 and then grade it what it should be graded, and then that's what you'll get back. So we don't want to try to do crossovers with a minimum grade situation.
Got you. So that's another kind of topic that I come across a lot when it comes to subguard cross grading and all that stuff. Do you advise people when they do that to send you guys the slab in whole itself and you guys crack it, or do you advise people to crack it themselves and send you the card?
We have no problem cracking it. That part's not, you know, that's not a challenge at all to do that. The big thing in it is a lot of people will want to send it the way that it is and say, you know, again, back to that, we'll only crack it if it's going to get a 10. It's like, well, I can't confirm that 100%. And even I think about PSA and Beckett, you know, if they're doing some of those crosses, like, what if they miss something? You know, what if it's a BGS 9.5 True Gem Plus and PSA goes, yep, it's a 10, and then they crack it, but their grader missed something and it should actually be a 9, right? Like there's a flaw in it. What do they do then at that point? You know, they've kind of already taken the onus on themselves because the customer said 10 only. What are they going to do? Call Beckett and say, hey, I need you to put this back in here because you misgraded it the first time, and I need you to take the blame. Like, they can't do it, right? And so with that, I don't mind cracking. That's not an issue at all, but it's going to be what it's going to be after the fact.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the whole transparency thing. I mean, we are all human beings. We do make some errors, and we're not perfect. One situation that just comes off the top of my head is I have a buddy that had a 9.5. I think it was a Justin Herbert Auto. He cracked the slab, sent it into PSA. I can't remember if he sent it to PSA and they cracked it for him, but PSA came back as a 6, a 3.5 grade loss. And he tried, you know, he did the fast service, and all that stuff. So it was kind of like, oh man, like, you know, heartbreaking. So in that instance, I probably, just why the raw review probably would have been a little bit better thing for him to do. But it kind of just sucked that it was a 9.5 and then it got dropped down to a 6. So what are you gonna do? Crack that PSA, send it back to back in and be like, hey, put it back in the 9.5.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it always makes me wonder, did something happen to it? I mean, the safest route possible for us as a business would be to say you crack your own card and then send it to us, because if you damage your card when you crack it, that's on you, right? Yeah. We definitely assume the risk when we go ahead and say that we're willing to crack it. But that just kind of that's part of business. It's something that we have to deal with. And I hope, in regards to your buddy, that it didn't get damaged, you know, accidentally, and not on purpose, of course. No one ever does it on purpose, but it didn't accidentally happen.
Yeah.
When they crack.
Yeah, and that's the only thing I could think of. I mean, my heart broke for him when he was telling me the story. Like, it really, really broke. But, you know, we're approaching about 40 minutes on the video, Derek. I'll get you on the way. Is there anything you want to share with anybody? I do want to thank you for taking the time out of your day and doing this video. I love having these conversations and knowing different people in the hobby. Is there anything you want to get out there to everybody that's watching?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I would say is, you know, we love your support. Try us out, meet us at a show, all that kind of stuff, I think is a great way to give it a shot. Back to the review thing that you were talking about earlier. Yeah, I think that people are scared sometimes to send their cards into a grading company, or they're worried about the grades that they might get. The other thing, just quite simply, if you've never done it before, if you've never graded a card before, that's just a scary process in general. And so we may be a gateway drug, if lack of a better term, to be able to get you to do it, bring it to us at an event, and then be able to get it back really quickly without a lot of, you know, trials and troubles to be able to get that turnaround done. So that's the first thing. You know, we'd love to just meet you and talk and show you kind of what we can do. That's number one. Number two, pay attention for our slabs. Obviously, those are coming up. So if they're going to drop this summer, they should drop in July. We don't have an exact date on that, but they should be in July of this year. So there will be a big Dallas show as well as the national that we'll be at. So those will be on display at those events. And then lastly, you know, follow us on social media. Everything is at Dci Grading. We do a lot of stuff on our YouTube. So there's a huge interview series. We have a podcast, a weekly podcast that happens, and a bunch of other things that all go on our YouTube as well as Spotify and Apple Music and our Instagram. And then we have a TikTok account, which is actually, believe it or not, our biggest account. A little bit over 50,000 followers on our TikTok now. So that you'll find a little bit more fun and silly type stuff in our TikTok, but all card related. So
nice. Yeah, everyone that's watching, all the links to their socials will be down in the description below. But dude, I've watched and listened to a few of the podcasts. Great stuff. They have this series where they took on a lady and she's completely new to the hobby, and she's just they're documenting her journey. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Go ahead and check them out. Go ahead and check them out. But we're going to wrap this up. Again, Derek, thank you very much. If there's any way we can help support you, we will. I look forward to seeing you next week at Del Mar Show. By the time you guys watch this, that show will be over. I'll let you know how it goes. And when the slab does get released, I would love to hopefully get you back on the channel and do a little, a slab release video for you.
For sure. Oh, I do have one more thing, though.
Oh.
I forgot, we have a giveaway that goes between now and June 30th. So even though this won't release for a week, you'll have plenty of time. So now through June 30th, any submissions that you do online through our online portal, for every single card that you submit, you get entered. Each one of those is a ticket entry towards a giveaway for a week for two in Cabo as well. So we're going to give away a week for two in Cabo. And so every card that you submit is an entry to that.
Wow. So there you guys go. Spend your $10. Is there a last note then, since you brought up this giveaway, is there a max amount of submissions that you could take at once?
Nope.
I can send you. Say it again.
We have not hit it yet, so go ahead and give us a try.
Okay. Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah. But, on a real note too, from that timing, so if you're at a show, it's usually an hour to an hour and a half. Sometimes if we get backed up, it could be 2 hours or so, but we let you know on that. And then if you mail in, usually your cards are done within 3 to 4 days and then shipped back to you as well. So it's still a really quick turnaround on our mail-in service. Awesome.
But again, Derek, I appreciate you being on the channel. This has been very informative. Again, great meeting you. Great getting to know what you guys do and where you guys are heading. So, been an awesome time. Until the next episode, guys, I'm SE1. This is Derek. This is Meet the Hobby. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.